lot of people were giving you all props, unfortunately, when deGrom got hurt. You said you don't believe he's pitching again. It's not happening. Choppy thought it was a 35% chance maybe he was pitching again, but you thought it was over yesterday before the news came out.
Just because it was following the same track that the way they've handled the disappointing news of, yeah, this dude's done for the year, like with Kluber and Darvish and guys that they've handled in the past. It just felt like the same thing where it's like, why are we not getting clarity? Why can't you guys talk directly to us about what's happening here? And it's usually because this is going to end poorly.
Yeah.
And that's the trek that it took.
Are you mad at them for the relaying of communication, Choppy, or it's just what sports is? Because someone lied bad.
It is what sports is. But don't say there's no structural damage multiple times, because there was structural damage. There had to be. He did not tear this thing in a bullpen session. In a 30-pitch bullpen, you're not rupturing your UCL. Either the bullpen never happened, or he went out there with a ruptured UCL. Could be partially ruptured. They could be rehabbing it because, Sandler brought up Tanaka, and Tanaka never had the surgery. Now, did he throw his slider as much? He was a split finger guy. Did he have the same stuff? There was times in his career he was like 89, 88 miles an hour. No, 91. He didn't have 98 mile an hour stuff. What if deGrom never has that surgery, tries to come back, and he's only pitching 93, 92? Well, that's not nearly good enough for what, he has been. So something happened. Something changed. From the point of no structural damage to bullpen to Tommy John.
Worst contracts in the history of DFW sports, and is this going to be put on the list? I think it is. This is already a disaster. Your first 2 years of him basically are gone. Unless he returns next year at the end of the season and they're in title contention and he can be your over-the-top return piece, you're going to miss the first 2 years of this deal with 3 left, and he's 35. You took hundreds of millions of dollars and lit it on fire. Lit it on fire with no insurance. It's gone. Poof. See you later. I don't know if there's any other way to spin it. It's obvious. What else is on the list from the Tolos? 877-881-1053.
We got 605 Shin-Soo Choo. That one was not great. That was 7 years, $130 million. And he was injured a lot, but his OPS was also under 800 for the duration of the contract. A-Rod from the 817 because it resulted in nothing but stats. 972, Rafe LaFrentz.
Wait, nothing but stats? Look, let's
cross. He won an MVP on a last place team. That was success.
Let's cross-examine some of these. Shin-Soo Choo is not going to belong in this category.
You don't think so? It's not as bad as deGrom. I think it was definitely a bad contract.
He was hurt quite a bit, but he wasn't terrible. His on base was high.
What about Prince Fielder? Would that be on the list? He got hurt almost immediately.
Was Prince a worse one than Choo?
Yes.
Wasn't Prince?
Yeah.
But
I think so. The Ranger numbers for Choo, 7 years, he hit 260. His OPS was 792. On base was 363.
Yep. That's really good.
Slugging was 429. 7 years.
Yeah, look, they probably didn't get their money's worth. They gave him $20 million a year almost.
Yeah.
Rafe LaFrentz is one that first comes to mind. 7 years, $70 million in 2002. 2002 was the year of the bad contracts in DFW. They also gave Chan-Ho Park a 5 for 65 in 2002.
Park is the one that still gets referenced a lot. Zeke's deal is awful.
Yeah, it is.
That one tied them up for a long time. The worst contract of all time.
By the way,
no.
Choo played in 800 games, 799. Fielder played in 289. So he played in 500 less games for the Rangers.
He was also acquired. Like he was traded for with that contract. It's not one they signed him to.
True.
But they still had to pay him. They still paid him afterwards, after he was injured, which makes it worse.
Tariq Abdul-Wahad is the worst contract in DFW sports history. He was the guard that they acquired from the Nuggets in the LaFrentz trade. They gave him a 6-year extension, 6 years, $40 million. He played 14 games. Just never got out there. He is, and it didn't hamstring you in the same ways that maybe somebody like Chan-Ho Park did or anything else. But when you talk about return on what you invested, $40 million 20 years ago on an NBA contract was a lot. And they got nothing out of him. Cuban has talked before about he was lazy, he didn't want to work, and it's one of the biggest mistakes he ever made.
Tolos are bringing up Chandler Parsons. If you're a Grizzlies fan, for sure. Was it an all-time bad deal? They also traded for that. I got to remember if they extended him here. He played 2 years, 127 games. He averaged 15 points.
It was 3 years, $46 million. I think he was worth it. And they didn't trade for him. They signed him to an offer sheet, and Houston couldn't match. But he was a productive player. Yeah, absolutely with the Grizzlies, but not here in Dallas. I thought he was worth his money here.
Got any more?
Let's see. Sean Bradley. Sean Bradley was another one.
Bradley was not great.
You what?
Bradley was not great.
No. So those are some of them. Chan Ho, Chandler Parsons, 3 for 46. Chu, Rafe, A-Rod, that people are bringing in. And then Martin Hansel as another one with the Stars. 3 years, $14.25 million. Played in 45 games over 3 years. He had 12 points total. That's over $1 million per point.
Woo! Any of those that we name worse than this deGrom one, the way it's going to end up? Brandon Carr thrown out there as well.
Carr played every game at least, and he was solid. He just wasn't a shutdown.
Yeah, like there was people who remember Igor Olshansky. They were mad with that contract. They didn't like that one.
Oh my gosh, Olshansky. I hadn't even thought about that name in forever. I
liked him because he said I looked like everybody who back in Eastern Europe, which I think was not a compliment.
Is there any person, one Ranger fan, who could say today that they would go back in time and redo this deal? Not one, right? There's no way to do it.
I don't think so. No. Because the whole point was what you're supposed to get on the front end of the contract.
I mean, the only way to do it is if you win a title in one of the years. He comes back, special postseason run next year, or he's healthy for one of the final 3 years of the deal.
He has to be Verlander pitching until he's 40 at a high level.
I mean, look, if they win the title this year, it was a success.
No.
They signed him to win.
Your bottom line, your smile.
He gets a ring.
They signed him to win a championship. They won a championship, and they signed him.
He gets a ring.
So, the win.